Hey everybody, we're here with another Half-Life mod, the Stanley Parable. Someone actually suggested this through Formspring, said that it's a real mindfuck, so I figured why not try to struggle through this and see what happens. I don't know, whatever. Did I do a little mini let's play of it? So yeah, Stanley Parable. And let's do this. Oh, I won't click to skip on you, baby.
This is the story of a man named Stanley.
Yeah.
Stanley worked for a company in a big building where he was employee number 427.
Cool.
Employee number 427's job was simple. He sat at his desk in room 427 and he pushed buttons on a keyboard.
Not very
Orders came to him through a monitor next to his desk, telling him what buttons to push, how long to push them, and in what order. This is what employee 427 did every day of every month of every year. And although others might have considered it soul-rending, Stanley relished every moment that the orders came in, as though he had been made exactly for this job. And Stanley was happy.
Until.
And then one day something very peculiar happened. Something that would forever change Stanley. Something he would never quite forget. He had been at his desk for nearly an hour when he realized that not one single order had arrived on a monitor for him to follow.
Oh no.
No one had showed up to give him instructions, call a meeting, or even say hi. Never in all his years at the company had this happened. This complete isolation.
This is a good narrator.
Something was very clearly wrong. Shocked, frozen solid, Stanley found himself unable to move for the longest time. But as he came to his wits and regained his senses, he got up from his desk and walked out into the hallway.
Yeah, I'll walk out of the hallway in a minute. Look at that keyboard. It's all fucked up. This room is not exactly the most detailed. You know, it's, about 1:45. I don't have a reflection. I can't jump. Oh, now I can't go back in there.
Stanley decided to go to the staff lounge to check on his co-workers. He never functioned well by himself and constantly needed support and guidance from others. So the thought of total solitude was terrifying to him.
No. You just said that all he did was sit in that room every hour of every day of every month of every year and by himself and push buttons. And now you're telling me that he doesn't do well by himself. Okay, I've already see a fucking plot hole. I almost said glory hole. That would have been embarrassing. Again. Oh wait, no. This is not a mirror. Okay.
When Stanley came to a set of 2 open doors, he entered the door on his left.
No.
This was not the correct way to the employee lounge, and Stanley knew it perfectly well. So he turned left at the first open door and walked back in the right direction.
I ain't following your fucking narration.
Stanley was so bad at following directions, it's incredible he wasn't fired years ago. Maybe this is why everyone had left. No one wanted to be around someone as bad at listening as him. And since he was walking into the middle of nowhere and thus ruining the entire story, Stanley decided that he would punish himself.
What?
So when he came to the elevator and the doors opened, he stepped inside and pushed the button to go up.
So, push the button to go down.
Oh, Stanley. You really aren't going anywhere, and I don't say that deceitfully. I truthfully mean that there isn't a story down here. The story was back up where I told you to go in the first place. Right now, you're just running around looking at empty halls. And frankly, that's perhaps even more infuriating for me. So why don't you throw me a bone, give me a chance, and just let me tell the story I want to tell,
Nope. My story. Okay. So let's see. There are a lot of empty halls. Okay, here we go.
Now listen carefully. This is important.
Okay.
Stanley walked through the red door.
Okay. Blue door.
Perhaps you misunderstood. Stanley walked through the red door.
No, blue door. Hey, let me go through this time. Awesome.
I still don't think we're communicating properly. Stanley walked through the red door.
What? No! God damn it. Fine, I'll go through your fucking red door. Oh. Okay.
Good. Good.
Uh-oh.
Now, if you don't mind, there's something I'd like to show you.
Oh,
But
no.
to do that, I think it would be best for us to start from the beginning.
God damn it.
This is a very sad story about the death of a man named Stanley.
What? No. No, it's not.
Stanley worked for a company in a big building where he was employee number 427.
Oh, okay, I get it.
His job pushing buttons demanded little of him, so there was not much of himself to give. And in this way, Stanley's job felt less and less like his every day.
B on your
But
keyboard.
if buttons need pushing one day, it means they'll need pushing the next and then the next. So without question or judgment, Stanley
That's why.
continued to do what the screen told him.
Oh,
One keystroke flowed into another keystroke, flowed into his ride home, flowed into dinner, flowed into waking up, flowed into going to work, and here he was again.
J.
Stanley was typing out a complete sentence that said absolutely nothing at all. If in reality no one ever actually disappeared from the office, and Stanley never got the opportunity to make a decision, to choose which path he wanted to take, would his life still have any meaning?
Hey, but
Perhaps when we long for something deeply enough, these hopes and fantasies become so strong in our minds that we truly believe that we're there, controlling that person and living that adventure.
wait.
To manipulate your own thoughts and emotions might mean freedom from a self-imposed prison.
I did
But
that, and
these
you punished
delusions
me.
can be fatal to those who can't tell the difference. And so, Stanley asked, if that door never opened, if I'll never be able to walk away from those people and from these buttons, is this life still worth experiencing? Am I actually happy? Stanley answered this question by pushing a button. Then he pushed a button, and then he pushed a button. Then he pushed a button. Then he pushed a button.
Dope. Well, that was easy. I win, I guess, by not doing what I was told to do. All right, we're gonna do this again. I'll obviously skip this part. Okay. Okay. So we'll follow the directions this time
Stanley
and see what happens.
decided to go to the staff lounge
Okay.
to check on his co-workers. He never functioned well by himself and constantly needed support and guidance from others, so the thought of total solitude was terrifying to him.
But
When Stanley came to a set of 2 open doors, he entered the door on his left.
okay, but if I'm doing what he's saying, don't I just defeat the purpose of what he just said of all I'm doing is things that people tell me to do? And by then doing those things that people tell me to do, I follow his story, and then that's what I'm doing. But if I would have gone the other way, like I did, and didn't follow any of his directions, then I did what he wanted me to do, which in the entire time he wanted me to do that. Oh my god! So I'll do what he says. That way he won't get what he wants. Yeah, I'm smart enough for this.
As Stanley entered the lounge, he was horrified to find not a single person here. He decided he would walk up to see his boss,
Okay.
hoping that he would find an answer there.
Alright. Oh, there's a down.
Coming to a staircase, Stanley walked upstairs to his boss's office.
I want to see what's downstairs, though. I want to know what's in that room. Okay, let's do this. What's quick save? F5? F6? Okay.
But Stanley just couldn't do it. He considered the possibility of facing his boss, of admitting that he had left his post during work hours. He might be fired for that. And in such a competitive economy, was it really worth taking that risk? All because he believed everyone had disappeared? His boss would think he was crazy. And then something occurred to Stanley. Maybe, he thought to himself,
I am
maybe
crazy.
I am crazy. Everyone I know simply vanishing out of the blue, there's almost no other explanation for it. And a nagging fear began to creep up in his mind. Questions that had been there all along. He just hadn't put his finger on them yet. For example, why couldn't he see his feet when he looked down?
Holy crap!
Why did doors close automatically behind him wherever he went?
Holy crap!
And for that matter, these rooms were starting to look pretty familiar. Was he just walking around in circles?
No, this is...
Where am I, he thought. And the more he found himself unable to answer these questions, the more questions continued to arise, until he came to the issue that had been slowly boiling until he could ignore it no longer. Why is there a voice in my head, dictating everything that I'm doing and thinking?
Yeah.
Suddenly, every door slammed shut. No, Stanley screamed. I need to get out of here.
I need
to know that there's something out there. I need to know it's not just all in my head. And he screamed and clutched at his skull as the voice grew harsher and the music in the background rose higher and higher. And then, moments before collapsing to the ground, Stanley clenched his fists and screamed to anyone who might be listening, "I'm not real! I'm not real! Don't believe any of it! None of it's real!" And then everything went black. This is the story of a woman named Mariella.
I am not a woman named Mariella.
Mariella woke up on a day like any other. She got dressed, went to work, clocked in, clocked out, and then she walked home. But her walk on this day was interrupted by the body of a man who had stumbled through town talking and screaming to himself, and then collapsed dead on the sidewalk. Moments after seeing him, she would turn, run to the nearest police station, and call for an ambulance. But for just a few brief seconds, she merely stood there, unable to move. The tragedy was not the death of a single person. It was that she would never know this man's story, never hear in his own words what had happened to him, or what he believed had happened to him. For to know these things would be to exist inside the head of the man himself. So all she could do was observe from a distance and pity him. But Mariella had places to be and people to meet with.
Oh, this narrator just takes over the show, man. I'm supposed to be the one talking.
Her career and indeed the rest of her life. She stood there for only a moment, looking down at the body, and then she ran.
Do I run now? Okay. Alright, we're gonna do, I guess, absolutely follow the directions this next time. Okay, absolutely. So we're gonna follow the directions to a T.
Stanley decided to go to the staff lounge to check on his co-workers. He never functioned well by himself and constantly needed support and guidance from others. So the thought of total solitude was terrifying.
I guess he got the guidance from the computer all the time.
When Stanley came to a set of 2 open doors, he entered the door on his left.
So I pushed a button a few times.
As Stanley entered the lounge, he was horrified to find not a single person here.
Man, the anti-aliasing on this is not very good.
Hoping that he would find an answer there.
Why can't I jump? Alright. Well, yeah, this is kind of a weird game, that's for sure.
Coming to a staircase, Stanley walked upstairs to his boss's office.
Okay. Here we go. My boss isn't here.
Entering his manager's office, Stanley was once again stunned to discover not an indication of any human life.
Wow.
It was at this point that he began to feel dizzy and a little sick, and even thought he might pass out, when suddenly he noticed a keypad next to the filing cabinet in the corner of his boss's office.
Yes, huh?
Stanley had never seen this panel before, and had no idea what combination of numbers would produce any result.
That sucks.
In fact, only Stanley's boss knew this, since the panel withheld access to the boss's greatest, darkest secret. And so he had assigned the keypad a combination that only he could possibly know. The number of his freshman dorm number in college. 1957.
One.
But of course, Stanley couldn't Yet incredibly, By simply pushing random buttons on the keypad, Stanley happened to input the correct code by sheer luck. Amazing. Stanley ventured forth into the newly opened passageway.
I don't know if that counts as me not following direct. Whatever, who cares? Let's just keep going. This will be the last time until I die, and then we'll end this. It's pretty neat, though. I mean, it's a neat little storytelling thing. The narration is really good. Really good.
As he drew deeper into the bowels of the building, Stanley had no idea where he was or what this place held. And just as he began to think he might not discover a thing, he emerged into a long room to find rows and rows of monitors. Screens with a number above it. Stanley noticed, however, that these were not random numbers, but the number of employees who worked in the building.
It's gonna
his
crush me,
co-workers. Even his own number, 427, had a place on the wall. But why a setup so elaborate, he asked. Was this simple surveillance or something even more? And as if in answer to his question, the wall slid open before him, revealing the ultimate truth of the situation. An enormous control panel, Stanley discovered, but not one that controlled simple machinery.
No.
Buttons were labeled with emotions. Happy, sad. Levers and knobs controlled actions. Walking, eating, doing work, or watching TV. Every input on this device monitored not the functions of a machine, but of a human being.
What are these?
And the reality began to sink in. Stanley, like so many other people, reduced to images on a monitor, had been under someone's control, always at the mercy of this machine. Could this have been the only reason employee number 427 was content with his boring job?
Perhaps.
That a machine had altered his emotions to accept it blindly? He began to feel an unbridled rage, and at the peak of his anger, something happened. A spark. Stanley looked up and saw the generator overhead, still providing some small amount of power to the machine, keeping it alive.
Son of a bitch.
And knowing that this generator was all that kept the controls running,
Kill it.
Stanley moved to the ladder in the back of the room and began to climb towards the rafters.
Alright, let's do this. Don't take this fucker out. Oh my god, I climb like a beast. So yeah, this is pretty interesting. You know, it's not any action-packed or anything like that, but, you know, it's certainly kind of a mind-fucking kind of thing.
The higher Stanley climbed, the closer he felt to freedom, the further from enslavement.
I still want to push those buttons. You know what, I'm gonna, just in case I get killed here, I'm gonna go down and push this button. Oh, well, we got two buttons here. We've got engage or disable. Well, obviously. Okay. Now what? Oh.
Blackness. Power gone. All alone. And then...
Yay. Outside.
As he stepped through the door into the fresh outside air, a feeling of liberation rushed through Stanley's body. He had seen power. He had seen enslavement, and he had destroyed it. The underling was in control now. He had found his leading role.
He's right, I can't control him at all.
Stanley never discovered why everyone had gone missing, nor how and when he had come under the machine's control. But it didn't upset him terribly, because he knew that this was how things were meant to happen.
Exactly.
All he felt was a delight unlike any he had ever known before. Never again would he follow someone else's orders without question. Never again would anyone tell Stanley where to go, what to do, or how to feel.
Okay.
No more bosses. No more instructions on a screen. Stanley decides for himself now. And he stepped out into the world.
You got hit by a meteorite.
And he felt the cool breeze upon his skin.
Before you got hit by a meteorite.
And Stanley
Got hit by a meteorite.
was happy.
Oh. Until he got hit by a meteorite. Well, alright. Cool. Do, 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 do.
And now, the end.
La 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 la. So yeah, kind of interesting. Kevin Brightening has a really cool narration voice. Kevan. Additional observations by Lyle Miller. I just wish it probably could have looked nicer though. Like I think I could have made some really neat looking levels. You know, I think my level design skills are above par here. I'm letting the credits run just so they get their little due credit as I talk over it. I will plan on going back here and hitting, I don't know, F9 or whatever it is that gets me back to loading. Oh, God damn it. Well, I'm talking over the song, so maybe it won't be a big deal. La 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 la. Alright, so actually I'm going to go back down. I can't jump. So I'm going to go push those buttons, because I'm just curious to what they do. Can I get hurt? No. Okay. I mean, it sounds like I can get hurt, but I'm going to see what these buttons do first. So they turn on for a second and then turn back off. Unless there's some sort of combination. See, they all turn right back off though. Like none of them just stays on until I click. Whatever. Alright guys, well that was an interesting little thing. So this will be a little mini LP, and also I'm going to start on some Deus Ex here, so, and then this weekend we should have something interesting that we're recording, and you'll just see when that comes out. Alright guys, see you later. Zoom out looking at the monitor. Zoom out? I mean fade out.